Dragon Quest IX released in the Americas in 2010, July 11th. That means it's the 5th anniversary, as of a couple weeks ago. Now, this is the first main Dragon Quest title to ever be released on a handheld system. It was announced early in 2006 and went through many delays and many changes throughout its development cycle. It initially was going to be an action RPG with a heavy multiplayer focus. While the multiplayer focus still remains the game today, it turned back into the traditional Dragon Quest style, though they did implement some changes for a wider worldwide appeal, such as no random encounters. You can actually see enemies for the first time on the map in order to go into them and fight them, like a lot of RPGs were doing at that time. A lot of people actually believe that Blue Dragon Awakened Shadow for the DS is actually what Dragon Quest IX was supposed to be. If you see the play today, it has the same art style because it's done by Akira Toriyama, but this one is Hironobu Sakaguchi series that he created basically after he left Square Enix. And it's been changing, like there's an Xbox 360 one that was turn-based, there was a RTS game for the DS, and then this one was more of an action RPG. Again, you know, there's no specific yes or no to it, but again, a lot of people believe that this game was essentially what Dragon Quest IX was supposed to be. So, fun little fact, if you look at both games side to side, it's like, oh yeah, I can definitely see the very Dragon Quest influence. And what you're about to hear is a conversation that myself and Shay had on a recent episode of the EGP, but I took it off because it was so good, and just like the Final Fantasy conversation that I released a couple days ago. Now, yeah, so sit back and enjoy. Dragon Quest IX was basically the first Dragon Quest that I ever played. I had seen you play 7. I had played the demo version of 8.
Which, the demo for 8 was just like the beginning of the game, wasn't it?
Basically, yeah. So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Wow, this is kind of hard. So I was like, whatever, I never picked it up. Obviously, I regret that because I played that very recently. It's a great game. So, you know, kind of dabbled with it, and then Dragon Quest 4, I believe, came out just before Dragon Quest 9 came out. And I picked it up because I'm like, okay, I want an RPG for my DS. This is supposed to be a classic, so I played it, and I was like, okay, it's a classic, but more along the lines of like a classic of like the original Final Fantasy, because even up to like Dragon Quest 4,
they're simple and short.
They kept along the very basics of an RPG, and they're very fantasy heavy. They have a story, but they're more whimsical, you know, they got all this stuff going on, and
a lot more lighthearted.
So, you know, I played and beat 4, and I was like, that was a cool little RPG. Like, definitely not one of my like top favorites, but like I'm glad I played it. So then 9 came out. No, I must have sunk at least like 120 hours into that game. That is the perfect DS game. I cannot believe how like amazing it is. Like, just like being able to partner up with friends via the DS play.
Yeah.
Having that store that you go into to like buy alchemy ingredients and new costumes, being able to get like those like dungeon maps that like you can go and explore forever, and
just new randomly generated dungeons,
and also you get to play like all these bosses from like the classic series. It's just so awesome. They supported that game so well on the DS, which had like an awful internet, but they still supported it so well because they're so dedicated to the game. It is just amazing. Like, you create your own character, the class system is like so fucking good. One of my top games, like, all times. What about you?
Yeah. When I first started playing 9, I had just gotten my wisdom teeth removed. So, I may or may not have been under the strong influence of painkillers.
This thing is great.
I got that. The night that I got Dragon Quest IX was I also got Fossil Fighters.
And man, let me tell you about Fossil Fighters.
Needless to say, I love both those games. 9, phenomenal story. For a Dragon Quest, it was par for the course, but it was still...
That's one of my only downfalls to the game, is the story does not carry me through. In fact, there's maybe a little bit too much talking, because like the fairy that's like your guiding, like Light, she sucks.
Fuck.
She's basically Stella! She's basically like the way you like interact with things, and it's just like so hokey, and it's just kind of a very predictable like RPG until like very later on, but like, you know, it's fine. It's not like a bad story, it's just like it doesn't like guide me along. What guided me along was like, this is one of those games where the gameplay was like the key.
definitely.
Yeah, and we played this thing together. I should say, I said we, but
Yeah.
it was me and you and another guy, one of our friends.
Yep.
And yeah, it just, I always want to pop it out, but also when I pop it out, I'm just like, they're not updating anymore. Not as good because I'm like away from like friends too, and that's what like made the game good. So
Yeah.
if you haven't played it, please go out there, buy a copy. It'll work on your 3DS or new 3DS or whatever. It's still so good. Please do it today.
Boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, subscribe, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom.